Napoleon's invasion of Russia, 1812, widely considered one of the greatest military blunders in human history. The following were taken by letters written by soldiers within the Grande Armée, many never before translated into English until now. They described the battles of Smolensk and Borodino, culminating with their arrival in Moscow. These were the soldiers of Napoleon's Grande Armée. These are their words, their thoughts, their hopes, their desires, and it's our privilege to give these men a voice and bring them to you so that they may not be forgotten. The following are taken from 6 letters written from Moscow in mid to late September 1812. The authors are Louis-Francois Cointin, born 7th of March, 1787, made a second lieutenant of the 12th Line Regiment in 1811, then full lieutenant on the 23rd of September, 1812. Jean-Ambroise Lehucher, born on the 3rd of May, 1785, conscripted into the 57th Line Infantry Regiment in 1805, and made adjutant on the 30th of September, 1812. Frederik Carel, born in the Netherlands on the 5th of February, 1784, appointed lieutenant of the Dutch Royal Guard and the Horse Artillery of the Imperial Guard, 1810. He was promoted to captain on the 1st of October, 1811. Jean-François Fourquet, born on the 12th of March, 1783, and made a soldier of the 30th Line Infantry Regiment in 1804. He'd be promoted to second lieutenant on the 12th of October, 1812. He would write 2 separate letters of his experiences in Russia. Jean-Marie François Paris, born on the 11th of April, 1785, soldier of the 12th Line Infantry Regiment in 1806. He was promoted to second lieutenant on the 20th of August, 1812, then lieutenant in 1813.
My dear mother, I am pleased to announce that the French army, of which I am a member, entered the large city of Moscow on the 14th of this month. We had a hard time before we got there, but thank God I have not suffered any accidents so far. I'm going to tell you about the most significant incidents in which the regiment has been involved. Baron Duhamel, I would be failing in my duty if I did not do myself the honor of writing you these couple of words to acquaint you with my plight. We arrived in Moscow on 14 September. The Russian army and the inhabitants evacuated it on the same day. Although the city had been reduced to ashes, we still found supplies there, which did the army a great deal of good.
My dear friend, it was with infinite pleasure that I received your charming letter of 19 July. I cannot tell you how much it pleased me, and at the same time how much it distressed me to see myself separated so far from my affectionate friend. This winter will pass again, without me having the joy of holding you in my arms, because it seems that we are going to move to winter quarters. But where we are going to be staying has not yet been decided.
On 16 August, we arrived in front of the town of Smolensk. The fighting had begun in the evening and lasted all day on the 17th. But towards the end of the day, we took control of this town, which was very formidable, as it is situated on a mountain and surrounded by a wall 30 feet high and 15 feet thick. The regiment lost nearly 500 men killed or wounded in this affair. The capture of the city of Smolensk was the first battle at which the regiment found itself. The second battle took place on 7 September, when our regiment and all those of the division suffered greatly and 5 battalions were reduced to 2 after the battle. We rested on the 18th. On the 19th, we reached the Russians at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The fight was lengthy and obstinate. The Russians were positioned on a mountain and in a wood. The night caught us by surprise. Several times we found ourselves tangled up with the Russians, but despite the fact that they outnumbered us 2 to 1, we drove them off with our bayonets. We mourn our general of division, who perished, as well as our brave colonel, our major, a battalion commander, several officers, and, above all, many wounded, as well as 300 soldiers who were put out of action. We did not halt until 6 September, when we encountered the Russian army, entrenched to the teeth. It occupied all the heights, and on these heights stood batteries with 30 guns. On the morning of the 7th, a proclamation from the Emperor signaled the commencement of the attack. We advanced near the redoubts, to the cries of "Long live the Emperor," and at the Péduchat. The battle lasted a long time, but in the end, the French took the redoubts and remained masters of the battlefield. If you had seen the dead, the ground was covered with them. There were at least 8 Russians dead for every Frenchman. The regiment suffered greatly. I almost had both my legs blown off by a cannonball. It knocked me over, but in the end, I was able to pick myself up.
The campaign we are undertaking is very brilliant for the regiment, since it has been praised by His Majesty the Emperor and the King of Naples, under whose orders it has been for a long time, and under whose eyes it has had the good fortune to fight. The day of the 5th of this month was the high point of our fortunes. One of the regiment's battalions captured a village at Bayonet Point, where the enemy outnumbered us 10 to 1. Another battalion, together with the 61st Regiment, seized a redoubt that the Russians left armed with 8 fine artillery pieces and covered with their dead. The Emperor entrusted the safekeeping of this redoubt to the regiment, saying, "By leaving it to the 57th, I am convinced that the enemy will try in vain to capture it." We justified the good opinion he had of us, because the Russians tried, but in vain, to dislodge us twice. They always withdrew, losing a considerable number of men. On the 7th, the regiment took and held for the day another redoubt much more formidable than the former. These 2 affairs, which, as I told you above, earned us praise from the Emperor and cost us many men, among whom I count several of my true friends, whom I regret very sincerely. As for myself, I was fortunate enough to participate in all of these affairs without suffering a scratch. Several bullets pierced my trousers and greatcoat, but none of them struck me.
I wrote to my uncle twice without being able to write to you. No doubt he told you what I asked him to. You will therefore have learned that on 7th of September there was a great battle 3 leagues below Mahaisk, and that my squadron and all of the guards stood in reserve in the second line, and that I did not fire with cannon. De Vries' squadron fought and performed miracles. De Vries behaved very well, and although he suffered 2 saber blows, one to the chin and the other to the right arm, he continued to command his division. It was a very fortunate accident for him, because due to his antics, he was not too well thought of in the regiment. Now he will receive the cross. A request has also been made for me. A very favorable opportunity arose to make this request. On arriving in front of Moscow, our general found himself with the Emperor, who summoned him and said, "What do you mean? You are not asking for anything for your artillery. You know very well that the battle was a battle of giants." We immediately took advantage of His Majesty's kindness in such a way that I soon expect to receive what I most desire to obtain.
Our general of division, Count Morand, our general of brigade, our colonel, and our major were wounded. 3 battalion commanders were killed, as well as 16 officers. 52 officers were wounded, and you can imagine how much the soldiers suffered. I was fortunate not to befall such a fate, and today I am in very good health. We have been confined to barracks in the suburbs since yesterday. The divisions in the bivouac and the outposts are taking prisoners every day. We are guarding the city square of Moscow. The Russians have attacked us several times. His Majesty the Emperor and King, and His Majesty the King of Naples are here. I have nothing more of interest to report to you. I have the honor of expressing my greetings to your wife and to your family. Fourquet.
Fourquet was later captured by Russians on the 1st of December, 1812.
The soldiers deserted, disgusted, to constantly retreat, and to see themselves beaten on all the points where they wanted to oppose us. I believe that the Russian Emperor will soon be forced to request peace. We were bivouacked in front of the city until the 2nd, the day we entered it. We are staying in a house in a suburb whose inhabitants have fled. Although we always slept on straw and cooked ourselves, when we had enough to spare, I cannot tell you what pleasure I felt finding myself sheltered under a roof, sitting on chairs and having tables and plates to eat on, because for 4 months we had been sleeping under the stars and eating like pigs lying on the ground. I cannot tell you anything about the situation of the city or its inhabitants. The newspaper will tell you all you need to know. Besides, I want to reserve to tell you something myself when I get back, and I promise you that you will find it very hard to believe me, because in the course of this campaign, I have seen things that have never been witnessed before, and I fear that in a short time, I will doubt what my eyes have been beholding. In spite of the fatigue and deprivation we are enduring, I am, thank God, doing marvelously. And people even want to pretend that I'm getting fatter.
I am well, thank God. I hope with all my heart that this year finds you all in good health. I will tell you that Moscow has been burnt down, which is a pity. It is a beautiful city, 11 leagues in circumference. All the houses look like palaces, and the streets are very wide. It is said to be lovelier than Paris. The fire has been raging there since the 7th, and it has not yet been completely extinguished. We find ourselves at the end of a suburb that escaped the flames, but there are no inhabitants.
My dear mother, I am writing you these lines to inquire about the state of your health. I left the cantonment from which I wrote to you last time to embark on a campaign against Russia. However, as this has proceeded so quickly, I have not found a moment to write to you, and moreover the lack of mail services have prevented me from doing so, as we have been marching night and day despite having the enemy to fight. We have come a very long way in a very short time. Finally, we have been in Moscow since the 14th. The regiment fought 5 times and received congratulations from His Majesty the Emperor, as well as from King Murat. The Emperor reviewed the regiment on 20 August, awarded 31 crosses of honor, and promoted many officers. As I was wounded on 17 August during the capture of Smolensk, I was not present at this review. However, my injury was minor, and I hope to rejoin the regiment within a fortnight. In fact, I got myself a horse and set off before I was well again, because food was scarce and I could have been much better off in the regiment. I therefore made my way. After having traveled 2 leagues, I met an officer, who was also from the town and who had told me an hour after I had left, the Emperor had given the adjutants and the wounded officers 10 gold Napoleons each. It made me very sad to have left so early, and without having recovered, as well as to have suffered such a loss.
My friends, Delasares and De Vries, had a fever, but they are better now. I rarely see them, and I do not even know where they are staying. The city is so dreadfully big that all my efforts to find them have been to no avail. After all, Moscow is 3 leagues longer in circumference than Paris. In other words, 10 leagues. Yet it has only the same number of inhabitants as Paris. I find it more beautiful and better adorned than Paris. The streets are all very wide and convenient, and above all, very clean.
The Emperor has just replaced the officers who have died on the battlefield. He has deigned to accept my colonel's choice of me as adjutant. So here I am, relieved of my backpack, which has never bothered me much, and I'm wearing the epaulet and sword. Lehucher.
It has been raining for a few days now, and the frost will follow shortly. I have already bought some furs to protect myself against the ravages of this harsh climate. We have just received orders to be ready to leave at dawn tomorrow, but we do not know which way we will proceed. It is a devil of a feeling when you find yourself in a good place somewhere, and you are not given the time to enjoy it. I embrace you 1,000 times, and assure you that I will always be your faithful friend and husband.
List would survive the Russian campaign and resign as a squadron commander of the Dutch Royal Guard in 1814.
I believe we are going to rest for a while, and then continue on our way after these Russians, who are always running off and burning everything, thinking they're going to starve us to death. However, the great man who is leading us does not care, and the French army has not yet fasted, which means that we will have been without bread, although we have found some flour, with which we have made porridge with some water and salt. as we must tell you that no distribution has yet been carried out. Cabbages and potatoes served us as bread, and with all their precautions to save the inhabitants, the best part of Russia is in our possession. Farewell, my dear mother. Stay well, and the same goes for my brother and sister, whom I embrace from the bottom of my heart. And you, my dear mother, I embrace you 1,000 times from the bottom of my heart, and I will be your respectful son for life. Cointin.
Cointin would survive the Russian campaign and remain in the army until he retired a captain in 1834.
My dear little Henriette, I am doing very well despite the fact that the Russians have tried to kill me several times, but they have always been too inept. They were never able to hit me. They only spoiled my greatcoat, my trousers, and my shako, as well as the storehouses we took from them. I have just been appointed adjutant, and I am still my colonel's secretary. Lehucher.
Lehucher would later be taken prisoner during the retreat from Russia. His fate is unknown.
I arrived at the regiment, but how pleased I was to learn that the review conducted by His Majesty the Emperor I had been made second lieutenant. What a pleasure for me! At least now I'll be able to assist you in whatever way I can. As soon as I am paid for everything that is due to me, I'll send you something. But for the moment, it is not possible, because it has been 5 months since we have been paid. However, we hope that you will soon be paid in full. Farewell, my dear mother. Your son, Perry.
Perry would be made a full lieutenant in 1813 during the German campaigns. He would be killed during the Battle of Kulm on the 30th of August, 1813. These accounts were translated into English by Jonas De Neef. If you like this content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and help support the channel so we can bring you more content just like this. Links are provided in the description below for more eyewitness accounts of the Napoleonic Wars, many translated into English for the very first time. Thank you for watching.